Hey there, Jen here. So I'm a very frustrated Jen right now because I worked hard today on compiling a lot of my Venezuela footage from the Venezuelan embassy, where there's currently a standoff between Guaido supporters and those who are anti-coup in Venezuela. So I spent a lot of time doing that. It was going to be part of today's non-live stream because you guys seem to be really interested in that footage. There's not much to like when it includes the opposition, the Guaido supporters, actually harassing and physically and verbally harassing the peace protectors at the embassy. But anyway, the footage is very interesting and revealing as well. So I worked hard putting it together, and then, mind you, I'm not a video editor person. What I tried to do was just compile some of the best clips, and then I did a voiceover. So when I went to export it, everything looked great, except for in the last 9 seconds, it decided that the video wasn't going to render. So I tried closing the program, I tried redoing it, I tried just uploading it straight to YouTube from the program. And the program, by the way, is Adobe Rush. So it's usually fine and easy. It's one of those like video software for dummies sorts of programs. But it's not working, and I'm frustrated and sad. Because I really wanted to show that to you today. And I'm also so short of time that actually a little bit, like in 5 minutes, I'm going to have to run downstairs and get my son from the school bus while this is still playing, which I know isn't great to like abandon you a little bit through, but it should only be a few minutes. And I'll grab him from the bus, make sure he gets his snack. He's in 3rd grade, by the way. And then I will come back and continue reporting. It's what I have to do. I'm a working mom, and right now I am the only one home, and I'm the only one who can do non-live streams because Jordan's still sick and having surgery. So much to do. Like, I'm seriously freaking out. I actually texted Jordan right before this, and it was like, here are the things that I have to do before 5 p.m. in order to get this non-live stream up, and it's a disaster. And he was like, he didn't say anything, negative or anything, but I think he was like, whoa, girl, calm down. So I'm trying to remain calm, trying to still get everything done, trying to make sure that I do the status quo reporting that you've come to know and love, even though I have about a billion things to do. Yes, a billion. So while we're on the topic of things to do, there's something I want you to do. And the very first thing I want you to do is to smash that like button. So you see the little thumbs up sign down below you? Hit it. Hit that button until it's highlighted. The more people who smash that like button, the more people actually see this video, because it's just how YouTube's algorithms work. They work by if the more people, the more activity are going on one certain video, then they'll actually show it to other people. They'll put it in their feeds and things like that, and they might even notify people that the video's ready. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Like, YouTube could actually send you a notification. Who could guess? I'll also, just like yesterday, show you this very sad picture. Prepare yourself for this very, very sad picture. There is a sad Jordan. And he's sad because he got back surgery. And someone yesterday said, I think Jordan's milking it a little bit. And you would be correct. And Jordan admits it. He's going to milk it for all it's worth. So he just had his 2nd back surgery within a year. And his number one wish while he's out with this back surgery is that you, first of all, like this video, and that you become a member. If you become a member, you will be making Jordan happy. And also, as I always say, it's all about you. So becoming a member is about you. It's not about us at Status Quo, except that you will be sustaining us to do the in-field reporting you've come to know and love, the at-home reporting you've come to know and love, getting equipment. I just had to get this new microphone, Blue Yeti, and it's actually in blue, so I'm extra happy about that. The guy at Best Buy, he must have thought I was nuts, because I said, I'm looking for the Yeti microphone, and he goes, all right, so the Blue Yeti microphone. And I go, yeah, because the company is blue. It's called the Blue Yeti. And and then he's like, but do you want it in the color blue? And I was like, what do you mean? It comes in blue? And it's like, yeah. So because I used to have the silver one, and the silver one's just not as exciting. But I digress. The blue one's great. Become a member, because there are lots of great perks. You'll get monthly video member calls we use the Zoom platform for those calls. You'll get behind the scenes videos. Jordan just did one, and I'll be doing them. So you'll get to hear like our video diaries, where we're like, more so than we do on here, talking about personal stuff and talking about the behind the scenes workings of the business and things like that. So yes, become a member, get extra content. Now that Ty's done working on the documentary, you'll see a lot more extra video content. Once I'm freed up a little bit, I'll be doing some extra bonus written content. So all you have to do is go to statusquo.com/join, and then you can become a member. So it's definitely a great move. You can join for as low as $5 a month, and we won't stop reminding you, because we have a goal right now to reach 400 paid members on our membership site, and we are just 9 people away. So if 9 people join for $5 each, we will achieve our goal. I am actually going to run downstairs now. While I do that, I will play you a video. Hold on one second. Oh, I actually have to go right now. Hold on. I'm coming back. I'm so sorry about that. Usually the bus gets here at 4, so I thought I would have like 1 minute to put on a video for you, but I did not. So anyway, now I'm all sweaty from running down the stairs, making sure I collect my child. But now he's happily eating a snack, which is his favorite thing to do after school. So like this video, become a member. Forgive me for running away from you for a minute. And yeah, all will be good. So today I'm going to cover a couple Joe Biden stories, which always gets my blood boiling, because Joe Biden is just the worst. He's way worse than Hillary. I mean, if it were a choice between Hillary and Joe Biden, I would choose Hillary in a heartbeat. And you know how I feel about Hillary. And actually, maybe you saw my shirt when I stood up, but let me show you my shirt real quick. Pretty great, right? Okay, so as a journalist, I obviously have to separate myself from politics, but as a person, I have politics, and I like Bernie. So let's get into the very first story, and excuse me while my heartbeat slows down, and while I collect myself. I'm a mess today. There's no two ways about it. Sorry about that. So the first story is crazy, as always. Jill Biden, Jill, the wife, has come out today talking about Anita Hill and saying that everyone needs to move on. So first, let's have a refresher about what the Joe Biden Anita Hill controversy is all about. So this is from New York Magazine Intelligencer, a brief guide to the Joe Biden Anita Hill controversy. Hours after Joe Biden made his presidential run official last month, Anita Hill's name was back in the news. Biden, the New York Times reported, called Hill earlier in April to express his regret for her treatment during the Clarence Thomas Supreme Court confirmation hearings. On what planet is it not obvious that he called her in April because he was running for president? He knew that this was one of the biggest issues against him, so ding ding, his campaign people were like, you better call Anita Hill. And so he did, but she wasn't having it. Let's keep going. Hill, who accused the judge of sexual harassment and was mocked, jeered, and dismissed by the Senate Judiciary Committee, which Biden chaired, declined to characterize Biden's words to her as an apology, according to the Times. She also said she could not support his candidacy. Nearly 3 decades after Hill's blockbuster testimony, it's clear that Biden's role in it is still an issue. For those whose memory of the fall 1991 is hazy, or who weren't even born yet, here's a brief refresher on what happened. How did Anita Hill get involved in the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings? She almost didn't. Thomas's confirmation hearings were largely unremarkable until NPR's Nina Totenberg reported that Hill, then a law professor at the University of Oklahoma, had told the FBI that Thomas sexually harassed her. An uproar followed, and Hill was called to testify. In front of the all-male, all-white Senate Judiciary Committee, Hill claimed that Thomas sexually harassed her in the early 80s when they worked together at the Education Department and the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. She said he repeatedly tried to get her to go on dates with him and made many inappropriate sexual remarks. He talked about pornographic materials depicting individuals with large penises or large breasts involved in various sex acts, she said. On several occasions, Thomas told me graphically of his own sexual prowess. In another incident, Hill said Thomas cracked a joke to her about finding a pubic hair on my coke. In his own testimony, Thomas would deny everything Hill said. From my standpoint, as a Black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. What did Biden do during the hearings? As chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee at the time, it fell on Biden to preside over the hearings. Critics of his performance tend to hone in on 3 things. First, he did little to stop members of the committee from attacking Hill. The Republicans were the most relentless. Arlen Specter asked her why she didn't report the behavior to HR and said that discussing large breasts at work was common. Hal Heflin asked if she was a scorned woman and if she had militant attitude relative to the area of civil rights or a martyr complex. Charles Grassley accused her of lifting the pubic hair story from The Exorcist. Second, Biden failed to call additional witnesses who could have corroborated Hill's testimony. One of those women, Angela Wright Shannon, told Roll Call in 2016 that it was probably a good thing that she didn't testify. I don't think I could have maintained the grace and dignity of Anita Hill, she said. Hill, in 2014, said Biden declining to put the other witnesses in front of the committee was a disservice to me and a disservice, more importantly, to the public, as allowing those women to testify would have helped the public to understand sexual harassment. He failed to do that. Lastly, Biden's critics say that his own questioning of Hill was unfair, blaming him for setting an accusing, skeptical tone and losing control, the Washington Post reports. Charles Ogletree, a Harvard law professor and Hill's attorney at the time, told Politico he still blames Biden for mishandling the hearing. I was shocked and dismayed that Joe Biden was asking questions that didn't seem appropriate and was not in her corner as a Democrat, Ogletree said. The point is that he's supposed to be neutral, but his questions to Anita Hill were as piercing as anyone's. Ogletree said he's brought up the hearings with Biden in the years since, but hasn't been satisfied with the response. He said that this job was to control the hearing, that he was surprised by the results as well, Ogletree said. So, has Biden apologized? Whether or not Biden had offered an adequate apology became a contentious issue as he launched his 2020 campaign. Over the years, Biden tiptoed up to an apology but hadn't fully committed. Hill's family even jokes about it, she told Elle last year. It's becoming sort of a running joke in the household when someone rings the doorbell and we're not expecting company, she said. Oh, we say, is that Joe Biden coming to apologize? Even in recent months, Biden downplayed his role in what happened to her. To this day, I regret I couldn't give her the kind of hearing she deserved, Biden said earlier this year. I wish I could have done something. Let's talk about that. I wish I could have done something. You are the one running the hearing. What do you mean you wish you could have done something? You're one of the only people who could have done something and you didn't. It's just another smarmy, gross, terrible thing that Joe Biden has said. Another smarmy, gross, terrible thing that Joe Biden has done because he doesn't actually care about sexual harassment. And as we know, he's been accused of that himself. I digress. Though Biden reached out to Hill in recent weeks, she told the Times the call left her unsatisfied. I cannot be satisfied by simply saying, I'm sorry for what happened to you, she said. I will be satisfied when I know there is real change and real accountability and real purpose. On The View last month, Joy Behar pushed Biden to personally apologize for his own role in the hearings. He pushed back. If you go back and look at what I said and didn't say, I don't think I treated her badly, he said. Let's listen in on that.
We are back with Vice President Joe Biden. So welcome to the View Apology Tour. Yeah. I know something about it, believe me. We all do. Okay? Yeah. You're not alone in this one.
I'm proud of my record.
Okay. So let's go to this one. This is another area that earlier this month you reached out to Anita Hill. And you personally expressed some regret to her about the way you behaved, I guess, back in 1991 when you were on the Senate committee. You didn't vote for Clarence Thomas, right?
Not only didn't I vote for Clarence Thomas, I believed her from the beginning.
Yeah.
I was against Clarence Thomas. I did everything in my power to defeat Clarence Thomas, and he's won by the smallest margin anyone ever won going on the Supreme Court.
But she was not 100% happy with your discussion with her. So here's your opportunity right now to just say you apologize, you're sorry. I think we can clean this up right now.
Well, by the way, I did. I understand. Look, I'm not going to judge whether or not it was appropriate, whether she thought it was sufficient, but I said privately what I've said publicly. I am sorry she was treated the way she was treated. I wish we could have figured out a better way to get this thing done. I did everything in my power to do what I thought was within the rules to be able to stop things. But look, take a look at what's happened. What I did when we got through that god-awful experience she'd been through, she's one of the reasons why we have the Me Too movement. She's one of the reasons why I was able to finish writing the Violence Against Women Act. She's one of the reasons why I committed, and that was over. There'd never be a Judiciary Committee I was involved with that didn't have women on it. So I went out and got a commitment that the women I campaigned for would come on the committee. So she's responsible for significant changes, and she deserves credit for it. And one of the things you saw is, how about the last hearing? There's so much more work to do to figure out how. The one important thing I know is, and if there's anything in terms of mindset of Supreme Court hearings in those kinds of circumstances, Supreme Court hearing is not a trial. It's a job interview. It's a job interview. And you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt anything as to why you shouldn't put so-and-so on the court. And so I'm grateful she took my
Knowing
call.
you, for as long as I have, I don't know why it took you so long to call her. I wish it had happened earlier.
Well, I tell you what the deal was. I did not, since I had publicly apologized for the way she was treated, I had publicly said it, I publicly had given credit for her, the contribution she made to begin to change this culture in a significant way, that what I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to, quote, invade her space. I didn't want to get in the situation where this became, and then when I heard all this about and it was legitimate, expecting a call every time the phone rang, and so I spoke to some leading women advocates in this area, someone knew her, and I said, could you see whether she'd take my call?
Yeah.
And I was grateful she took my call.
I think what she wants you to say is, I'm sorry for the way I treated you, not for the way you were treated. I think that would be closer.
Well, but I'm sorry the way she got treated.
I think that's enough from Mr. Joe Biden there. So also, in an interview with Good Morning America, Biden said he takes responsibility for Hill's treatment during the hearing and suggested he's already apologized. I believed her from the beginning, but I was chairman. She did not get a fair hearing. She did not get treated well. That's my responsibility, Biden told GMA. As the committee chairman, I take responsibility that she did not get treated well. I take responsibility for that. I apologized for it, Biden continued. I apologize again because, look, here's the deal. She did not get treated fair across the board. The system did not work. One possible reason why Biden was hesitant to say he's sorry, it seems that the idea was that if he started, he wouldn't ever be able to stop. And then on Twitter, Edward Isaac DeVore said, Biden says he waited to call Anita Hill because he felt like he had apologized publicly, and I didn't want to invade her space. Pressed by Joy Behar why he's not apologizing to her, Biden says, I'm sorry for the way she got treated. I don't think I treated her badly. And there you go right there. Biden seems to think that he didn't do anything wrong. He apologized for the way that she was treated by those on the committee hearing, or at the committee hearing, but he doesn't think that he personally did anything wrong. And remember, he said he wished he could do something. He could have done something. He could have treated her better, but he doesn't take responsibility, and that's a pattern that we see over and over again. Edward Isaac DeVore continues, there's a sense among some within the Biden orbit that if he starts apologizing for Anita Hill, for the women who felt uncomfortable with how he touched them, for anything else, that it will open up the floodgates and he'll never be able to stop apologizing. Well, why does the guy have so much to apologize for? I mean, it's ridiculous. The Biden camp seems eager to put this episode behind the candidate. That became most explicit on May 7th when Dr. Jill Biden told NPR, it's time to move on. So that is what we're going to talk about next. It's time to move on. You know who gets to say that it's time to move on? And that's Anita Hill. And even then, this is such an important issue. It has to deal with sexual harassment, something that Joe Biden should be very familiar with. It's not time to move on. No one believes that it's time to move on, except for those whose best interest it is to move on. And that would be Joe Biden. And Jill Biden by extension. So let's see what Mrs. Jill Biden had to say. Oh, before I do that, before I switch the scene, remember to smash that like button. Do this, smash it, push that button, get it done. Okay? Let's see here, Miss Jill Biden. So this is the NPR article that everyone is talking about, and it's titled, Jill Biden Says It's Time to Move On from Anita Hill Controversy. This is by Danielle Kurtzleben. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Jill Biden is accomplished in her own right. She holds 2 master's degrees and a doctoral degree. But then, her husband is the former vice president and a top contender for the Democratic presidential nomination for 2020. And so, while she has maintained her own career, she has also taken her husband's aspirations in stride. As the former vice president has launched his presidential campaign, she's had to prepare for the massive commitment required for a White House run, along with the scrutiny. That has meant defending her husband against uncomfortable accusations, both old and new. When it comes to the recently renewed controversy over how Joe Biden led the 1991 Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Clarence Thomas, in which law professor Anita Hill accused Thomas of persistent sexual harassment, Joe Biden tells NPR's Rachel Martin in part, "It's time to move on." Biden talked to Martin about her new book, Where the Light Enters, as well as her husband's presidential run. On Vice President Biden's role in the Clarence Thomas hearings. Joe Biden's role in the Thomas confirmation hearings is one of the darkest clouds hanging over Biden's 2020 bid. At the time of the hearings, Biden chaired the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he has faced heavy criticism over his handling of the hearings, particularly because of corroborating witnesses who were not called to appear before the committee to back Hill's story up. And this is something that a lot of people really have a problem with, is the fact that Joe Biden didn't call those witnesses up. I believe there were 6 witnesses, and I also believe they were women, but I will have to fact check that were ready to testify, but who were not called up. So Joe Biden, you wish you could have done something. That's the something that you could have done right there. Let's see here. In recent weeks, Joe Biden called Anita Hill, but in an interview with the New York Times, Hill wouldn't say she considered that call an apology. After telling ABC's The View, "I don't think I treated her badly," Biden also recently told ABC's Good Morning America, "I take responsibility that she did not get treated well. I take responsibility for that." Biden, "I watched the hearings like most other Americans, and so Joe said, as I did, we believed Anita Hill. He voted against Clarence Thomas, and as he has said, he's called Anita Hill, they've talked, they've spoken, and he said, he feels badly. He apologized for the way the hearings were run, and so now it's time to move on." I wish that Jill Biden would put herself in Anita Hill's shoes. Would she think it's time to move on when a supposed Democratic ally treats her that way, runs the hearings that way? It's not time to move on. It's only time to move on because it suits your presidential campaign, Jill and Joe Biden. Martin, why did he wait until just before he was running for president to call her? Jill Biden, well, I guess it was just not the right time maybe, so he wanted to call her. I think he didn't know whether she would take his call, and he was so happy that she did take his call and they spoke. And I think I think they came to an agreement. Martin, did you encourage him to make that overture? Jill Biden, no, that was his decision. Now let's talk about the fact that Joe Biden now has his own sexual sexual harassment allegations. Women have accused him of sniffing their hair, which is super weird, inappropriately touching them, inappropriately kissing them. None have risen to the level of a criminal accusation, but it's still harassment. It's still very creepy, and it's still a problem that's been documented time and time again in photographs and on video. So this has to be uncomfortable for Jill Biden to respond to about her husband, but she has to respond to it. On accusations to Vice President Biden of unwanted touching, Lucy Flores, a former Nevada Democratic Assemblywoman, accused Joe Biden this year of kissing the back of her head and sniffing her hair at a 2014 event when she was a candidate to be Nevada's lieutenant governor. It was the first of several similar accusations Biden faced in the weeks leading up to his campaign launch. Joe Biden responded with a video saying, "Governing, quite frankly, life for that matter, is about connecting. Words that Jill Biden echoes here. He also said, "I get it," and he said he would change how he campaigns. Shortly after that video, however, he joked about the controversy at a campaign event. The fact that he joked about the controversy at a campaign event shows you what an SHIT head he is. He connects with people, and I think that's one of his strengths. And he heard Lucy Flores loud and clear, and he said he would take responsibility and he would, honor people's space. So you don't think Jill Biden has ever said, "Why are you touching and kissing all these other women? It's weird"? I would hope that she would have said that. And I write about that in my book, when I talked about when I met the Biden family and they were different. They were a very affectionate family. My family wasn't that affectionate, so that took me a little while to get used to that. But then I saw how Joe connected with people. And now these are different times. Joe realizes that these are different times. And believe me, he's very conscious of, how he interacts with men and women today. So there you go. The headline is it's time to move on from the Anita Hill controversy. Obviously, that is not the case, and it's shocking, and she is just as tone deaf as her husband is. I don't understand these people. And it must be the result of being wealthy, white, totally disconnected, totally establishment people. That's all I can think about is how could you think it's time to move on? How could you not continue apologizing? It's okay. It's not okay, but it's, people make mistakes in their past. How they handle things in the future is very telling. And the fact that Joe Biden did not directly apologize, and now the fact that his wife is saying it's time to move on, it's all part of PR, and that's all it is PR to move past this, and some of the older white generation is going to be just fine and say, oh, they addressed it, it's fine, or maybe they didn't think it was a problem with the Anita Hill hearings in the first place. Maybe they didn't even believe Anita Hill, even though they were Democrats. And not that sexual harassment should have a side, but the reality was that it did have a side. The GOP tended to be on Clarence Thomas's side, while Democrats tended to be on Anita Hill's side. So that is something I will closely follow, because what happened with Anita Hill is representative of a much larger problem with Joe Biden. So we have another Joe Biden story for you. But first, let's look again at this very sad picture. Remember, Jordan wants you to become a member. I want you to become a member. That's because we want to hang out with you more. We want to interact with you more. We want you on those monthly video calls. We want you to see our behind the scenes videos of the stories we're working on, the frustrations we have, the happy times we have, the funny and silly times we have. And you get all of those behind the scenes interactions and things if you're a member. So go to statuscoup.com/join. That's statuscoup.com/join. This next story also will not come as a surprise to you at all. It's by The Intercept, Lee Fong and Andrew Perez. Joe Biden's presidential campaign pledged not to take special interest money, but not to his PAC. And so that's something you have to pay attention to in any presidential campaign or any campaign in general, is the things that they say things out of one corner of their mouth, but do something totally different or use loopholes to get around it. So in this case, Joe Biden's using a loophole saying, oh, I'm not going to accept corrupt cash in my campaign, but he is accepting corrupt cash in his PAC. So it's really, a normal person wouldn't do this. They would hopefully do what they say they're going to do. But Joe Biden, who's an establishment politician, a career politician, has lost his way. And you'll see why he's lost his way, because he used to, when he was younger, talk about the fact that special interest money leads politicians to do special interest things. And now he apparently doesn't see it that way. So let's go through this great reporting by The Intercept. In his bid to become the Democratic presidential nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden pledged to reject contributions from lobbyists and corporate PACs, but he has quietly taken in more than $30,000 in donations from corporate interests through a political action committee he created in 2017. Biden founded American Possibilities in 2017 to support Democrats in the midterm elections. The group took about $29,000 in donations from federal lobbyists and $5,000 from a PAC affiliated with Masimo, a medical device company. The former vice president, who announced his campaign last week, has already come under scrutiny for relying on lobbyists and other well-connected supporters to host his first fundraiser. Although the lobbyist and PAC donations represent barely 1% of the money received by American Possibilities, the contributions underscore Biden's history of close relationships with lobbyists and special interests. Biden's campaign did not return requests for comment. American Possibilities has been especially important to Biden's presidential ambitions. The PAC helped pay for a political staff after Biden left office in 2017, and it was recently given access to former President Barack Obama's massive email list of supporters. For those of you who don't understand what a big deal it is to get President Obama's email list, that's a giant deal. Email lists are gold when it comes to marketing, making money, things like that. So that's a huge deal. 2 days before Biden announced his presidential bid, American Possibilities sent messages to people on the Obama list and offered recipients the chance to be the first to know about Biden's plans. K Street history. K Street is a street in Washington, D.C., just so you know. Biden has a history of relying on lobbyists to assist his campaigns. Lobbyists donated more than $20,000 to Biden's 2008 presidential run. That year, William Oldecker, a political consultant and lawyer with whom Biden's son Hunter once worked as a lobbyist, served as Biden's legal advisor. Biden's shift away from lobbyist donations came as a result of his union with Obama, who was running on a pledge to reject lobbyist cash. The Obama-Biden ticket launched multiple television and radio advertisements warning of Republican nominee John McCain's relationship with lobbyists, along with the website www.mclobbyist.com, which detailed the dangers of McCain's lobbyist-friendly inner circle. Biden, however, had to deal with his own lobbyist issues during the campaign, including the vote he cast for a controversial 2005 bankruptcy bill after receiving a large number of donations from MBNA, a credit card firm that also retained Hunter Biden as a consultant. MBNA, which was headquartered in Biden's home state of Delaware, was bought by Bank of America in 2006 and subsequently acquired by the UK-based Lloyds Banking Group in 2016. As vice president, Biden hired Steve Ricchetti, his longtime advisor and former lobbyist, to serve as one of his top aides. Though the Obama administration had imposed a ban on hiring people who had lobbied in the past 2 years, Biden's office says Ricchetti didn't need an ethics waiver to join the administration because Ricchetti had terminated his lobbying registrations 4 years earlier, even though he had still been doing government relations work for 20 clients and his brother had kept lobbying for their firm's clients. They always want something. The Democratic National Committee in Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign tossed out the Obama-era rules banning lobbyists and corporate PAC cash during the 2016 election. American Possibilities does not appear to have followed the Obama contribution ban either. The PAC's lobbyist donors include John Breaux, a former Democratic senator from Louisiana and senior counsel at Squire Patton Boggs, is registered to represent the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's also lobbied for health insurance giant United Health Group, Shell Oil, and aerospace company SpaceX. Todd Webster, a senior vice president at Cornerstone Government Affairs, served as chief of staff to Biden's successors, Senator Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware. He lobbies for a handful of Fortune 500 companies, including Boeing, Citigroup, Google, Microsoft, and Cheniere Energy. John Bentivoglio, a partner at Skadden Arps and former top Biden staffer on the Senate Judiciary Committee, is registered to lobby for Strong Bridge Biopharma on drug pricing issues. Tonio Burgos, a longtime aide to New York Governor Mario Cuomo, who runs the lobbying and public affairs firm Tonio Burgos and Associates and has lobbied for neurological surgery, PC. His firm has represented Team Select Home Care, a healthcare provider. Other lobbyist donors to American Possibilities are former Biden staffers Cynthia Hogan, who's lobbied for Apple, is a longtime Biden aide. David Wade, now a lobbyist for Facebook and a donor to American Possibilities, previously served as a spokesperson for Biden. None of the lobbyist donors nor the PAC affiliated with Massimo responded to requests for comment. American Possibilities returned a $5,000 donation in December from 21st Century Fox, then the parent company of Fox News. Even as his 2020 campaign promised a return of the Obama-era ethics rules on campaign money, Biden's first fundraiser last week was hosted by supporters who included the vice president of Comcast's lobbying operation. Biden, for his part, has long been aware of how big money interests can affect politics. It costs a great deal of money to run, Biden said way back in 1974. You have to go to these people who have money, and they always want something. Let's take a look at that statement because I really want to highlight it. This is by Zaid Jilani. Joe Biden in 2019 did a fundraiser for This Week Comcast executive and a health insurance executive. Joe Biden in 1974 explains why this is bad for democracy. It costs a great deal of money to run. You have to go to those people who have money, and they always want something. So let's play that.
Assume I'm not corrupt, but thank you for that, though. The system does produce corruption, and I think implicit in the system is corruption, when in fact, whether or not you can run for public office, and it costs a great deal of money to run for the United States Senate, even for a small state like Delaware, you have to go to those people who have money, and they always want something. You can assume I'm not corrupt, but thank you for that, though. The system does produce corruption.
There you go. You have it in Joe Biden's own words. So good job to The Intercept for staying on top of that. It's very important for people to comb through opensecrets.com and wherever else that you can find donor information, what's happening with these PACs and super PACs, and what's happening with these organizations that are set up like American Possibilities, and how politicians are skirting the rules and skirting their own pledges to not accept corporate cash. Joe Biden, you failed once again. Gaffe after gaffe with this guy. It's unbelievable. He has apparently come out successfully time after time with accusation after accusation of inappropriate touching and kissing. He's apparently going to come out okay after the Anita Hill controversy, and even after his wife and he have said terrible things about the controversy and about Anita Hill's expectations. She doesn't believe that that was an apology, so he needs to go a step further and actually apologize for his own actions. And we also have him going against his word and accepting corporate cash through loopholes, and that's not good at all. So one more reminder to smash that like button. It's right below you. Just poke it until it's highlighted. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel and hit the bell for notifications, and also become a sustaining member of Status Coup so we can keep reporting. Go to statuscoup.com/join, and for as little as $5 a month, you can make sure that we can continue reporting and bringing you infield stories and stories that no one else is covering. So please do that if you can. I'm going to cover one more story before I have to run out and get my older son from play practice. And as I told you, it's a busy day and I didn't know how I was going to get it all done. Feeling a little bit calmer now because talking to you guys helps calm me down some. Although talking about Joe Biden does not help me calm down some. So let's talk about Russiagate. Shall we? It's been a while since we talked about Russiagate. Here we have on the Gray Zone, Aaron Mate actually did an interview with his own father called America in Denial, Gabor Mate on the Psychology of Russiagate. And this is an interview transcript, so I won't go through all of it, but it's very interesting, I thought, and so I wanted to share it with you at the end here. Physician, mental health expert, and best-selling author Dr. Gabor Mate sits down with the Gray Zone's Aaron Mate to analyze how Russiagate was able to take hold of U.S. society following Donald Trump's election. I find this absolutely fascinating. I'm going to play a little bit of this for you, but then read parts of the transcript.
It's the Gray Zone, coming to you from the People's Forum in New York City. I'm Aaron Mate, here with another Mate. His name is Gabor. He is a physician, an expert on childhood trauma, mental health, chronic illness, and the author of several best-selling books. He's also my father. And I wanted to bring him in today to discuss Russiagate, which is now in a new chapter, and many people are grappling with the fact that Robert Mueller has just returned a verdict on the issue of the Trump-Russia conspiracy, which so many people were led to believe in, and Mueller has rejected it. And so I wanted to talk to Gabor because he writes a lot about psychology and mental health, because I don't think we can understand what we just went through in Russiagate without understanding the psychological angle. And so that's why he is here. Very happy to have you, Dad, on the Gray Zone.
Nice to be here with you, Ryan.
So we've just been through this 2-year ordeal with Russiagate. It's in a new phase now with Robert Mueller rejecting the outcome that so many were expecting, that there would be a Trump-Russia conspiracy. Your sense of how this whole thing has gone?
What's interesting is that in the aftermath of the Mueller thunderbolt of no proof of collusion, there were articles about how people are disappointed about this finding. Now, disappointment means that you were expecting something, you wanted something to happen, and it didn't happen. So that means that some people wanted Mueller to find evidence of collusion, which means that emotionally they were invested in it. It wasn't just that they wanted to know the truth, they actually wanted the truth to look a certain way. And whenever we want the truth to look a certain way, there's some reason, it has to do with our own emotional needs, and not just with the concern for reality. And in politics in general, although we think that people make decisions on intellectual grounds based on facts and beliefs, very often actually people's dynamics are driven by emotional forces that they're not even aware of in themselves. And I really, as I observed this whole Russiagate phenomenon from the beginning, it really seemed to me that there was a lot of emotionality in it that had little to do with the actual facts of the case. There's no question that for a lot of people in this country, the election of Trump was a traumatic event. Now, when a trauma reaction happens, which is to say you're hurt and you're pained and you're confused and you're scared and you're bewildered, there's basically two things you can do about it. One is you can own that I'm pained and I'm hurt, I'm bewildered, and I'm really scared, and then try and look at what happened to bring me to that situation. Or you can, instead of dealing with those emotions, come up with some kind of explanation that makes you feel better about them. So that I've got this pain, I got this bewilderment, I got this fear. So that rather than looking at what does it say about American society that a man like this could even run for office, let alone well elected? What does it say about American society that so many people are actually enrolled in believing that this man could be any kind of a savior? What does that say about the divisions and the conflicts and the contradictions and the genuine problems in this culture? And how do we address those issues? You can look at that, or you can say there must be a devil somehow behind all this, and that devil is a foreign power, and his name is Putin, and his country is Russia. Now you've got a simple explanation that doesn't invite you or necessitate that you explore your own pain and your own fear and your own trauma. So I really believe that really this Russiagate narrative was, on the part of a lot of people, a sign of genuine upset, as something genuinely upsetting. But rather than dealing with the upset, it was an easier way to, in a sense, draw off the energy of it into some kind of a believable and comforting narrative. It's much more comforting to believe that some enemy is doing this to us than to look at what does this say about us as a society. I mean, there was a massive denial of the actual dynamics in American society that led to the election of this traumatized and traumatizing individual as president. Number one.
Because you think Donald Trump himself is traumatized?
Oh, Donald Trump is a clearest example of a traumatized politician one can ever see.
And there you have part of that interview. I highly recommend that you check that out from the Gray Zone's YouTube. It's, I have a background in psychology, so I find the psychology behind all of this so interesting. It's interesting from the psychology of Trump, the psychology of the people who actually wanted collusion to be found, and it's fascinating, it's sad, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot to this transcript, there's a lot to the video, so definitely recommend you check this out. For example, on AM Joy in February 2018, Rob Reiner said, "We have been invaded in such a subtle way because we don't see planes hitting the buildings. We don't see bombs dropping in Pearl Harbor. But we have been invaded, as Malcolm Nance points out. We are under attack, but we don't feel it. But it's like walking around with high blood pressure, and then all of a sudden you're not aware of it and you drop dead. So it's insidious, and it has affected our bloodstream, and if we don't do something about it, and that's why guys like John Brennan and James Clapper are running around with their hair on fire, because they're trying to wake people up and tell them, we have to do something about it, we have to protect ourselves, and if we don't, our 241 years of democracy and self-governance will start to collapse." And Gabor Mate says, "And the assumption that even if you take all the things that Russia has changed with this in the whole Russiagate narrative over the last 2.5 years, and if you multiply it by 100 times, even then you could not have possibly destroyed the United States. Even then, what is our self-image if we think we are that weak, that kind of external interference could undermine everything that you believed this country has built over the last few centuries? So it shows to me a real shock reaction, and what has been shocked here is our beliefs and what this country is about. And again, as I said before, it's in a sense more comforting. It's frightening, but at the same time more comforting to see the problem as coming from the outside than to search for it amongst ourselves and within ourselves." How about this is Aaron Mate. How about then the aspect of this that puts so much hope into Robert Mueller? Because Robert Mueller was supposed to be our savior. Gabor Mate says, first of all, if we actually look at who Mueller is, who is he? He's a man who, amongst many others, was 100% convinced that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. As Gabor continues, so the given line supported by Mueller led to the deaths of several 100,000 Iraqi people and thousands of Americans, and has incurred costs that we are all fully aware of in terms of the rise in terrorism and embroilment in multiple wars and situations. It takes an act of powerful historical amnesia for people to believe that this man is going to be our savior. That's the first point. Just incredible. Historical amnesia number one. Number two, America, if you can judge by its TV shows, is very much addicted to the good guy, bad guy scenario. So that reality is not complex, and it's not subtle, and it's not a buildup of multiple dynamics, internal and external. But basically, there's evil and there's good, and evil is going to be cut out by the good and destroyed by it. And that's really how the American narrative very often is presented. Now, the same thing is projected into politics. So now if there's a bad guy called Putin and his puppet called Trump, then there has to be a good guy that is going to save us from it. Some guy on a white Charger that's going to move in here and a silver-haired, patrician-looking man who's going to find the truth and rescue us all, which again is a projection of people's hopes for truth outside of themselves onto some kind of benevolent savior figure. Needless to say, when that savior figure doesn't deliver, then we have to argue that maybe he was bought off or corrupt or stupid himself or insufficient himself, or that there's something secret that is yet to be uncovered that someday will come to the surface that Mueller himself was unable to discover for himself. So that's all I'm going to read for this due to time. But I definitely recommend you check it out. We can put the link in the description box. And the psychology of Russiagate is absolutely fascinating in my opinion, and definitely something to look at. A lot of it is going to make absolute sense to you if you've been following Aaron Mate, but his father goes even further than him. So that's something you'll want to check out. And now I have to cut this short because I have to go pick up my older son, as I said, from his play practice. But I, again, want you to smash the like button because it really helps us out. So it just takes a second to smash it, smash it, smash it, smash it. Then become a member for $5 at statuscoup.com/join. You'll be sustaining us. We don't accept corporate cash. We don't have a secret PAC that's accepting corporate cash. It's just us. It's just us trying to do the very best we can do with limited resources and trying to get the truth out there. And that's who we at Status Coup are. Alrighty. Bye-bye.